Oh, hi. There are sisters here. Welcome. I'm Catherine Barton, Amy Camp Ryan, and our guest, Angela Skurtu.
Yay!
Good morning.
Good morning. Yay.
So it's been a minute since we recorded a podcast. It feels like it's been a minute. It has been a little bit of a minute. But they're out there.
They're out there.
Yes. So, yeah, I guess to touch base, it's about fall. Kids are in school. Things are happening.
You got a new doggy.
I got a new dog who is in her house currently because she's not ready for podcasting yet.
That's a good point. She's not ready to make her debut.
No, she's not ready for the debut. She would take all the attention.
Yes.
And we want to give it.
Yeah, that's right. I would want to compete with your dog, actually. It's a very cute dog. I would. It's true. It's true. I own it.
Anything new? Where do you want to start?
Well, so we're actually thinking about getting a dog. So we've been researching dogs a lot. So dogs are kind of on the brain. But so that's been fun, just scrolling through all of the very cute pictures and figuring out who would be a good fit for our family.
Yes.
So
For your family.
yeah.
And, for our family. Because
So
we
they
take
can
out
be friends.
friends.
Yes. We have to have a dog that will be friends with your dog.
Yes.
So
I'm
that would be
excited.
obsessed.
Our families are growing.
Yeah. 4 legs at a time.
Yeah.
Or 3. Well, I'm open to 3 legs.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Angela! Hey, good.
Welcome.
So glad you're here. Thank you. Yes. So you are St. Louis Marriage Therapy.
Yes.
Right? And you do all of the things. You do so many things. You've written books. You used to do a podcast. You have a YouTube channel. You do speaking.
Yeah.
So just reading your
And
bio.
then counseling.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah, I still see people. You can come see me. It's fine.
Certified sex therapist. All very cool things. We are so excited to learn so much more about you.
Yes.
So, yeah. Where do you want to start?
I don't know. There's so you've been working with couples, right? For 11 or 15 years?
13 years.
13 years.
Well, I guess, hold on. If you're right. So it's 15. She's right. She doesn't matter. I've been working with couples for 15. I've been in business for 13. So that's why those two numbers, so you get your hours before you get licensed. But as soon as I got licensed, I was like, get in business quick.
Started.
So can I ask, where were you getting your license, like those 2 years? Where were you?
Here in Missouri.
Okay.
Licensed in Missouri. It's easier to get your license in the state that you're going to work in than to do it in another state and then transfer. I mean, you can still do it, but it's just way more challenging.
Well, hopefully next year, 2025, I was reading that there's, what is that thing called?
Reciprocity.
Oh, really?
With a lot of states. Yeah.
They need to. It's silly. We should have a base level of the license. You need to meet these requirements so you can move around. It seems so silly. Yes.
Do
I
doctors,
agree.
Do medical doctors have that?
I have no idea. I know nothing about medical professions.
I know.
I mean, I know a little bit, but not enough to answer that question.
Okay, so you were here, but did you get your degree in Oregon or Hawaii?
Both.
Okay, cool.
So I got a bachelor's in Hawaii, and I just want y'all to know it's the best way to study. You go to the beach, you read, you've taken some information, you go swim, because you gotta soak it in, literally soak it in the water, right? You're permeating the info. Then you go back out, take a break, study some more. I studied like that for hours back in Hawaii. It was amazing. So that's where I got my bachelor's, and then I went to Oregon for my master's. And by the way, that life shift. So in Hawaii, it's like rainbows and sunshine literally every day, to rain all the time for 9 months. And that was when I picked up my very heavy coffee habit, because I was like, I can't live like this. I can't even wake up. Why are we here?
How do I get through the day?
It was a big challenge.
How did you pick Oregon from Hawaii? I mean, you're right, a big shift.
Well, I wanted to go to an accredited institution for marriage and family therapy, and University of Oregon has the most amazing program for marriage and family therapy.
Is that where Gottman is? No, where's Gottman?
I do not know. I know he's in that Pacific Northwest area.
Maybe Washington.
I don't know. They may be in Washington, but
there.
just that school was they basically are setting kind of the standards for the rest of the schools in the country. And so I was like, I love this place. I want to be here. And I'm so grateful for the knowledge I learned at University of Oregon. Like, it even taught me how to be like, I still consider myself a research-based sex therapist. Like, I call myself a creative research-based therapist because they taught you how to like stay on top of research and keep learning and keep like taking in, soaking in knowledge so that you're adjusting and honing your practice across life. So I'm constantly evolving as a result of that training program.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think you mentioned too, right? And I was reading your bio, or it was being read to me.
Because you don't read yourself.
No.
You have people for that.
I have little sisters. When you do take that information, right, and you teach it to your clients and hone it and get creative on how for them to use it.
Yeah, that's a really big part of my practice. I really consider myself a little bit more of a researcher than a therapist. I still am a therapist, but I don't just research psychology or social sciences. I research everything because I'm a little bit ADHD. So let's just throw that right in there. But I research like educational things. I research about leadership. I research about science. Like I was talking earlier about the dog documentary.
Yes.
I'm like, survival of the friendliest. These are things that we can learn from. Like, and so I love to learn. But so what I do is I try to extract from things what could be relevant for clients, what could actually help them shift or change the way they're doing things. And then I teach them how to personalize it too. Because even when you have skills, your skills aren't going to work if you don't have the client kind of figuring out like, okay, how do I adjust this to work for me?
Yes.
So there's like a fun shaping process I'm doing all the time.
Yes.
So teaching, but giving them that, I don't know, the ownership of it, of how does it fit into my life?
Yes, because I have a high value for personal autonomy.
Yes.
And responsibility, taking ownership for your treatment and your growth.
Very good.
And it validates to hear you say that, because on some level, I will research things, not random. Like, it's not a random thought, like, I'm going to research this. It's usually my clients inspire me to learn more about whatever it is that they might be struggling with, or if they have a medical issue. And I'm like, I'm going to look this up, or let's try this. And so it's like being inspired by them and growing and learning more about their personal experiences and how to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I pay a lot of attention to language and how people speak and like how things sound. And I have like just such a variety of different kinds of clients, and like in terms of where they fall on spectrums. So like my partner took me shooting, like gun shooting, like, boom, 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 boom. So like we went shooting, and everything I do, I can somehow trail back to either sex or the therapy work that I'm doing.
Yes.
So he's teaching me how to do pistol shooting, and he's like, Angela, you're anticipating the shot. And so he was teaching me mindfulness. Like I had to learn. No, it was really good. Like I guess I could go sexual too. I wasn't even thinking about that. No, I was thinking about zeroing in your focus and quieting the background. But you guys are right. There's a money shot too. But no, what I was doing when I was shooting is I was anticipating the shot and then moving my hand before it came out, which would move, and then the pistol would go up instead of where it went. And he's like, no, you have to be surprised by the shot every single time. And I was like, this is a therapy skill.
Yes. No, it's so
because people are like anticipating that next step, then you lose your focus and like 100%. Presence in this step. And so I was so excited to learn a therapy skill. He's like, only you, Angela, would take shooting and turn it into some kind of therapy thing. And I'm like, what would you expect any less from me?
You didn't want to let him down.
No, but I did. It was cool. And it was really cool to have everything quiet. Like when you learn to do that, it's like, it's so peaceful.
Because you have those ear things on, right?
Yeah, but what you're doing is your brain zeroing in totally to the activity and like all that chatter that goes, what about this? It just has to shut down for you to deeply focus into this physical experience, which is totally transferable to sex. Because you have to quiet some of that mind and focus in on body sensations. So it's absolutely sexual, but not in the way you guys were thinking about it, but totally fun.
I like that connection of mindfulness because it's about being present in that moment of pulling the trigger. You're not present if you're anticipating.
Yeah. You're thinking about the sound that's coming after the trigger. And no, you have to hold steady, pull that trigger, be surprised afterwards. It's full presence. Yeah. So I love doing stuff like that. And like everywhere I'm going, I'm a little bit learning about like, that's part of it. So there's a part of me that's a little bit of a therapist all the time. And then there's a part of me that tries to shut it off, but it never really shuts off.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
It doesn't. I'm always like, what about this?
I know. And I like that, ready for the surprise, because I think a lot of people that provokes anxiety on some level, surprise.
Oh, yeah. Well, think of how loud a gunshot is, too. Well, that element of surprise is very terrifying.
Connected to it, right? All the trauma that can be connected to it.
Well, but, you can think of sensory people, right? So, like, let's not do gunshot situation, but, like, that surprise of, like, I wasn't prepared for the routine to change. Like, this is what the routine, we were going to do A, B, and C. What's this F thing going on over here, Yeah. Like, that probably is very jarring for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so when...
Just soaking all that in.
Yeah, it's so
you guys just have to think now. We're like, I broke them. Sorry.
We'll come back.
It's okay. What were you going to say?
Well, no, so we often talk about healing, and we're curious how you envision healing, how you see clients that you work with heal, or what healing means for you. That was a lot of questions, but pick one.
I was thinking, like, what's this theme of healing, to some degree, I think it's being yourself and learning to, like, deeply accept yourself for who you are, kind of the warts and all. But it's hard because it's a symbiotic relationship with society, right? So, like, I've been thinking a little bit about this, like, how do we hold a space for authenticity, but then how do we also hold space for there are certain social norms, there's certain social situations where, and it's not that, like, this, it's like that, how do you be yourself, but, like, what version of yourself is relevant in these situations? And I think it's just, healing can be this challenging balance of those two things, of, like, how do we, because, like, I see healing, just answering that question all by itself, is, like, the more accepting and loving you are of yourself and, like, very self-compassionate towards who you are as a person. So, like, some of my quirks that I actually do put in some of my bios is I'm the unfiltered therapist, or I'm the therapist without tact. So I am, but there's reasons, right? Like, I have a mom who is deaf. So think of all the cultural things missing from somebody who's being raised by a mom who literally doesn't visually, they miss every third word or fourth word when they're situationally out there, because she would read lips, but not very well. And nobody's talking and thinking about her. Right. So she'd miss all those things that you're supposed to learn from. And then I just had a weird dad. He's just like somewhere on a spectrum, never been diagnosed, but he's just quirky. We'll just say that. So I have those two things as a part of my growing up. And, like, I realized, like, oh, well, some of it is that I'm unfiltered because I wasn't taught certain social norms. But some of it is just biologically, I can tell. I'm like, there's even a reason why I'm in this field. Because I get to ask very direct questions that help me sift through those nonverbal communicational things that I struggled with growing up. So it's like, it's all like connected. I'm always like, this connects to this. This makes so much sense. But so going back to this healing question, my big way of seeing healing is just coming to deep acceptance with who you are and finding a way to, like, be in communities that work well for that version of yourself. Right? And so
I'm like finding your tribe, choosing your people.
Yeah, there's an element of that where you can let your guard down and be yourself. And we still have to then exist in these different environments, because you can't always be around your tribe. Sometimes you're in this work environment that's like, ooh, that's all not cool. Right. Or if you're a church person, sometimes you're in a church or in a religious experience where, like, it's not really cool. And so there's a little bit of navigating which spaces are best for me to be myself, but then how do I recognize these different hats and learn to, I know nobody likes this, but chameleon a little bit in those different spaces in a way that works, so you can actually be a successful person too. Because the reality is, even with all my quirks and wildness, or whoever else is who's listening, there's still, you've got to make money, you've got to pay your bills, you've got to live in society. And so it's this balance between the two is the way I'm viewing the question.
And then accepting that, and also being mindful or aware of, okay, I understand that in this group or at this place, I can't necessarily talk about or be free on this part of my life, but I'm choosing that this is where I want to go to work, and I'm choosing that it is okay for me to put this hat on, and I'm accepting of that. Is that part of that, do you see?
Yeah, and I guess as I'm thinking of healing, I'm thinking of definitely spectrum-y situations, right? Where people who are on the autism spectrum or ADHD spectrum, or people who struggle with those social norms, and like, how do you, because like those people who've struggled with that, like there's actually a debate right now around, should we be accommodating them or should they be accommodating us? And the reality is, I think it's symbiotic. It's both.
Yes.
Like, we have to both grow towards each other. Like, we do need to find ways to adjust and understand that some people just don't understand these social norms. And there's ways they need to develop social skills so that they can work with and in our environments too.
Other, right?
Yeah,
it's like you
it's
said,
working together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can learn from them and they can learn from us, and yeah, I like that.
I think I don't know, I think the world's evolving too, so that's good.
So, yes, it is evolving. It is.
Because it used to be the other way, that the people who had the different challenges or disorders just had to completely almost pass in like the normal world. But I think the normal world is getting tired of being so stuffy.
Let's hope so.
Yes, where maybe we don't have to mask as much. And
I think that's why we're drawn to authentic people, right? Because if you think of like, who are the influencers you love to listen to or watch? It's people who just tell it like it is, because it's refreshing. I think some part of us doesn't want to be like, no, I like that. I'm drawn to that. And it's because there's so much in our lives that we're having to kind of like navigate. Like, when am I supposed to say this and not say this? When is this appropriate? It's like, I don't want to be appropriate. I'm just going to talk.
It's exhausting.
It's always gauging. Is this okay, or is this appropriate, or and it's like,
can we just be appropriately inappropriate?
Exactly. I like that.
Yes, and it has, I mean, not to get political or anything, but this political, what's that term where, not politically appropriate, but like, with comedians and things like that.
I mean, being politically correct?
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so she said it, though.
But there is this thing where, I mean, we don't want to hurt people's feelings and we don't want to be disrespectful, but there is kind of like this always gauging, like, is this okay to say? Or even if we're still learning, like there are things that I'm still learning about language and what is hurtful, what isn't hurtful, what's, can I say this or can I not say that? So I think, to your level of just, is it okay to be inappropriate, appropriately inappropriate?
Yeah. Well, and I think of couples, right? So like a lot of my work is in language, believe it or not. Like, because if you think of it, so I've got two couples on a couch, or wait, hold on, two people on a couch that are in a couple. I'm just setting a stage. It's fine. So one person says A, and B person hears something completely different.
Yeah.
Then B person says B, and the A person hears something completely different. So it's, a lot of it is like teasing through, like, what is the explicit message and what is implicitly going across the couch that you're not seeing. And a lot of it is just extricating that, like, okay, so you said this, but it sounded like this, or it could sound like this. Do you hear it? And I say that a lot to people. I'm like, did you hear how it could come across that way? And they'd be like, oh, I'm like, a lot of it's unintentional. Like, a lot of it's these couples that are not like, most of the couples I work with do not want to hurt each other. I do want you to hear that. If you ever see me, like, you don't want to hurt each other. It's all unintentional, and it's based on those weird implicit messages that are, like, coming across the couch that you're just like, what? That's not what I meant at all.
And even with, like, neurotypical couples, right, who, they struggle with that kind of, so teasing that information out, too, just with the neurotypical, which it's helpful to have skills and knowledge of.
But I think it often gets lost language, where it's like, that wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
Right? They'll often say, that wasn't my intention. It's like, well, that's how I heard it, or that's how I interpreted it. So then it's figuring out, where did we kind of miss that, or where did it get kind of misunderstood? Right? And then I think that's a lot of times when people feel like my partner doesn't get me, right? Or I feel misunderstood, or I just, or I'm even afraid to bring up something because I'm going to hurt their feelings, right? What if I say this, if I ask for something that I need, and it might come out as kind of hurtful to them, right? And so then what do we do with that?
Yeah.
Because it's going through all those internal filters that we've created within ourselves. And then, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at me like, huh?
You were just the last person to talk.
No.
We had to look at you because that's the social norm.
Please don't. I'm social learning.
I don't want to fit your things.
And sometimes it's awkward.
It is. Even that, like something so simple as like how much eye contact can you give before it feels creepy?
Yes.
It's like I guess it started to feel. We're like, oh, we missed the second mark.
It's too many.
Turned away.
Don't look at me
I
anymore.
know. It's funny. I have some people in my life who have weird eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
Who like they'll say like a joke and they'll like say a joke and they're like,
They look.
oh, and I'm like,
they're waiting for your laughter for their punchline.
But it wasn't funny.
It's like, what do I do? My honest response is this sucks.
And I'm just like staring back, like, okay, what do I do here? So yeah,
So healing.
healing,
Healing.
figuring out our balance, right? How do we show up in these different situations, and what are we comfortable with? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's one part of it. I think another part is just like unraveling traumas, you know. I mean, that's a big part of our work is, you know, like in all of these ways. And this is just one aspect of it, right? It's like, how do you show up in these different environments? But like, then there's the trauma that we pick up associated with, you know, like whatever happened in our childhood. And so those traumas are some of those filters too that sometimes make us like hold back or be more guarded or protected, or like you can make it difficult to share or be vulnerable and open up. And then like, is your partner, so I work with a lot of couples, right? So is your partner even a safe space to be vulnerable, right? Like I always think of it in terms of like 3 layers. There's the content, which is the things people are talking about. Like, did you do dishes or not do dishes, right? But then there's the process, and the process is how we talk through dishes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, am I like, hey, could you help me out with dishes today? It would be nice versus, why didn't you do the dishes? It's like, you're so lazy. That's like a process. That process sometimes needs healing. And then there's these deeper meanings. You probably think of emotion focused therapy. For those of you who don't know, just the deeper meanings, you know, like there's, why is dishes such a big deal? Well, a deeper meaning might be, you don't care about the partnership. Like if you really cared about our partnership, you would be putting just as much information and time into dishes as I do. And so there's 3 layers essentially of conflict. I'm trying to help couples to one, kind of assess and treat. So healing in a couple's situation is me teaching people how to have those deep conversations of understanding at all 3 levels and how to know when they're with what level they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a lot of like skills training and psychoed on like, okay, so this is an example of process, right? So let's stay on process. Because then there's this other thing that happens when people are flooding. They call it kitchen sinking, where they just put all of it. They just spew like you've probably heard it on the girls, the movie, what do you call it? The Mean Girls, the word vomit, right?
Oh, yeah.
When people word vomit, all this is all the problems. And then like when you kitchen sink or like word vomit everything, then it feels like there's just this big pile of crap on the ground that we can't do anything about. And so even teaching clients how to like hone that down and like, all right, we're going to just focus on this. I had this one client who was a big kitchen sinker, and I was like, no, we're going to like, if you think of this like a loaf of bread, we're going to cut one slice off at a time, and this is the slice. Yeah. And he was like, but it worked. It worked out.
Good.
He actually has since like suggested, like sent clients to me after he's like, he raves about me, which I'm like, oh my God, that feels really special because he was very, very like anti my process. Those are my real victories, right? When like people are like, this woman's not going to do anything, and it's like, we will. It's just going to be slow and painful.
Yes. Just
Which
trust me in the process.
That's true.
It will absolutely be slow and painful, and I'm sorry, but it will get better.
Right.
So that's part of healing too, in terms of like couples.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
Well, and so what do you find for yourself that's really healing? Like personally, what feels...
I like having fun that isn't related to my job. I think that's really healing and important. Mm-hmm. So I very consciously have hobbies that have nothing to do with my work. Like I like to roller skate and I like to line dance. And as I was talking about earlier, we went shooting. And it depends on the season. So in summer, like there's more swimming, and like outdoorsy hikey type things. But then I'm moving into fall. You mentioned it's fall. So I'm thinking of my upcoming indoor hobbies and activities. But I think healing to me is making sure I have space for joy and fun. And doing it on a regular basis. Because I mean, I do love my job. I'm really passionate about my job, but like there's a way that it can suck you in, and you can become boundaryless around it because of how exciting, and we have passion for what we do, right? But like passion without boundaries causes chaos, right? So we need like breaks, and like you got to remember that like you're a whole bodied person, and having a holistic experience means I have to do things outside of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, spending time with my family and friends. I do have a lot of really cool friends I feel like I can be very authentic with and let my guard down. And I can say things that I don't have to overthink. So like because as therapists, we're overthinkers, right?
Yes.
So being in spaces where I can be judgy, where I don't have to overthink, I can just say it. And like people are like, oh, Angela, and they know that I mean well all the time. And even if I do make a mistake, there's a real gentle like way that they approach me too. Because I just had a mistake last night at a corporate event with my partner. But like, he's a very gentle person when he's like, hey, can you see how this went this way? And I was like, oh, yes, I can. That sucks. I will learn from it. But so when there are things, little mishaps or hurts that are done, that there's a real gentle approach in the way it's done.
I like that you mentioned my friends know that I mean well all the time. Yeah. And I think that if we can just come to all of our relationships on some level, right? The close ones that we know, and we build that trust of just looking at everything they do say is, well, they mean well all the time. And so maybe it came out this way. So let me check on that or check on myself. And it really gives that automatic grace.
Yeah. I like that word. I do feel like I have automatic grace with my friends and my partner. Which is really lovely.
Yeah,
it's that feeling, this automatic grace. That doesn't mean we don't have conflict or talk, but it means the approach is, Angela, I do know you mean well, and here's how it came across.
Yeah.
Do you see how? And then it's really a conversation. That's all it was. And I was like, oh, okay. And then like I give myself grace when I hear that feedback too. So like I don't think it's just automatic grace with those around us, but some of my own self-healing has been in the way I treat myself, which is, okay, that happened. That sucks. How can you learn from that? Like it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make a mess. How do you learn from the mistake, or how do you clean up the mess? And I really use that language a lot, both with me and my daughter, actually, because I want her to learn that self-compassion too, of like, it's okay to make a mess, just make sure you clean it up, because messes are her thing, right?
Yeah, right.
If you can have a thing. My daughter has messes as a thing right now.
How old is your daughter?
She's 9.
I think that's so important to have that humility to be able to accept your role in things. Right? To be able to accept that responsibility, or to be able to accept that, oh, yeah, I can see how what I said could have. Right? And I love that, what you said, that automatic grace. And I think of that also as giving the benefit of the doubt. I know they're meaning well, so maybe I need to get curious of where that's coming from for them, or what their intention was when they said that. Because to me, that kind of hurt my feelings. Right? But I really know that they didn't mean to.
Right? And yet it's still important to share that it hurt your feelings, even though, like, in our heart, we're like, we know they didn't mean to be mean, but still it validates. It's important to have that conversation, like you're saying, to still, say, hey, buddy, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
That's important.
You still got to own and honor your own personal walk in this world, right? And so, like, if something hurt you, I'm not suggesting you just deal with it and just like, all right, they didn't mean to, they didn't mean to, right? Like, no, it's okay. What happened? Why did it hurt me? What's going on for me? But then when you bring it up, you're giving the other person that benefit of the doubt of like, no, they didn't mean to, but they do need to know this. So going forward, we can, as a team, figure out how we're going to talk through things like this, or like do it differently.
Yeah. Good. So healing.
Yeah.
Healing.
That's, so bringing joy, having those boundaries around passion. Yeah, being around people that know that you're good intention at all times.
I also think, so this is a new concept I've been working on. I always got something. I always got something in the wheelhouse. So I've been thinking about, I think people need joy teams. And so, I know. It's really like, I've already done a video. It's coming out. But yeah, no. People like it. Definitely. Every time I say it, it's like a lean in moment, right? So you know when you've got like a nugget, right? But so when I want you guys to think of a joy team, so like people always talk about in business, like we need teams for this, and you need a well-oiled machine basically to keep your business running, right? But like, who's on your joy team outside of your business, outside of your work, right? And so I started thinking about it, and I actually came up with 3 pillars to this joy team. There's your childcare team, your healthcare team, and your play team. And those are your fun people or your fun team, right? But they're all a part of your joy team. And think of it, right? So like childcare. So in certain business situations, like entrepreneurs, I'm an entrepreneur or a solopreneur is what we call us. Basically, I run my own business, but there are times when like my business calls me to do this or that. And it's not like your typical school time experience, right? So who are the people on my childcare team that I can call upon for when I have a project or when my partner and I want to go on a date or have time alone with each other, right? If you only have one person on your childcare team, well, you risk kind of making them resentful or feeling like they're being burdened. Whereas if you have a childcare team, and think of like it's your school, it's your daycare, but it's also babysitters. It can be your spouse, but if your spouse is the only person, then every time you have something for work, then it's like, oh, sorry, babe, I need this, and it's like they need to not be the only person on your childcare team. And the thing is different people. Like if you think of the team, like the phone before we were trying to get it and something wasn't working for some reason, right? You have to have backups for when something isn't working. So she started getting her laptop out, like, what are we going to do, right? If you only have one point of access for the childcare team, then what happens when they're out? And then you're essentially screwed. So you need a childcare team that includes multiple people to be a part of your joy team. And then you got to think about your healthcare team too, because all of us are you guys are all in the business, right? Business owners. So as a business owner, usually we don't have very good insurance. And we're doing it all by ourselves. So if we don't have people in the seats, we don't make money. And so like we need to be doing things. If you think of your healthcare team, like, are you going to the doctor on a regular basis? We need to be healthy to do this job and to do it for the long term so that like we can keep subsisting and surviving, right? And so like who's on your healthcare team? Like if you need help to remember to exercise, do you have somebody who like some way that keeps you doing that if you need accountability? Or if, for example, you struggle with eating healthy, do you have a nutritionist who can help remind you to like stay on track? Are you seeing your doctor? For us ladies, OBGYNs, dental. Like, do you realize dental, like that's a very expensive thing. When you get a root canal, do you guys know how expensive root canals are? They are like super expensive.
My son had to get one. I love it. But yes.
Yeah, exactly. But so like these are all the like these routine maintenance things. You need a healthcare team to stay. And mental health. Thank you. That's why. Well, but that's why I went to the fun team or the play team because the whole joy team is about like we need people who remind us to have fun. And who's on your joy team? So I was thinking,
is your therapist on your joy team, or is that the health?
I mean, that would be, and I don't know, therapists could probably be both, but I was thinking like in the play side, it could be your friends, it could be your spouse, it could be like sister. So I told after I came up with this concept, I told my partner, I was like, you're on my joy team. But like other people are too. And like, again, you can't count on everybody for everything. So you need more than one person on that joy team on the play side of things. So I know it sounds weird. I'm like, I've really been thinking about teams and like, this is why we need community.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I love that idea of joy team because, Catherine and I are a team on this Thera Sisters because there's no way I could do 2 businesses all on my own. And so but then even within this, thinking of like who, a team, we're going to, anyway. Because you don't know everything, right? Like when it came to, podcasting and productions. Yeah, but for ourselves personally, I like this joy team.
Yeah, I know. I think we need it, and I think it's all going back to this community idea, right? Like we need communities. We can't exist in bubbles. Like we need connection to people who love us, who we can be authentically ourselves. So I think that's part of the play side of the joy team, right? Yes. Like, I need people who I can just be silly with and who remind me, fuck it all.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and also almost like a variety too.
Yeah.
You know, of just like, because we, like you said, we interact differently with different people. We interact differently with our friends and family. And so it's having those different outlets that serve different parts of us too.
Yeah. Well, and I want to like speak to my introverts because, of course, the introverts are like, "Oh my god, this sounds horrible." You can limit how much you see everybody in the team.
Yeah.
You can pick more quality people. That's another thing. So introverts tend to have a tripod of friends. They have like their spouse and two really close friends, and that's as much energy as they have to give, which is fine. But that's still your joy team, right? Like that's. I have my tripod. These are the people. I just pick higher quality people who can fill in more boxes.
Yes.
And extroverts do a little more of what I'm describing, where you might have like your runner friends, and you might then have your drinking friends, and your your therapist friends. So like it is. I should own that. That's an extroverted way of thinking, and then there's still ways to adjust it for my introvert friends listening, who are like, oh, people. I respect your needs. Just pick quality people and make it a smaller team, but you do need a team.
No, that's true, because I'm definitely more introverted than Catherine. And a friend of mine, my friend Jenny, I love you. She's like, Amy, you are one of those people who you like to have your person. And I'm like, yes, I am. But there's problems too with that, just having the one person. You do need multiple people because, if you depend on that one person to take you to the movies or to talk to everything about or this and that, they're going to get burnt out. They're going to be like, Amy, you need more than one person.
Well, here's where it shows up in my work, is infidelity. So when a couple, one person is cheating on the other, if that's your person and your person is the source of pain, then that's another reason why you need the team, because they can't be your person for all the things while you're healing through this big betrayal they've created.
100%. Yeah.
So it shows up a lot. That is like a lot in my office.
Well, I'm curious. This comes more from a couple's perspective. I'm curious your thoughts on, the struggle of when I get hurt by my partner, going to those people who might be part of my teams, but I'm also like, I don't want them to think ill of my partner. Right. And so maybe sometimes it's hard to share, well, my partner did this or my partner said this to someone, where it's like, I still want you to like my partner. I still want you to be friends with my partner, but I also need an outlet of places to kind of vent about how I've been hurt by my partner. You see what I'm curious, maybe your thoughts on that. And I guess that's kind of way over here.
No, it's not. I wrote about it in my infidelity book, actually. And one of the things I'm trying to think of the framework that I used, but it basically said you need to find somebody who you consider to be like a good neutral person for things like that. They're like
able to hold on to that dichotomy.
I called them marriage advocates. That's what I used as the phrase. Like, find a marriage advocate. And what a marriage advocate is, it could be a therapist, but you need people in your real life too.
Yeah.
So a marriage advocate is somebody who is on your team side. And you can see that in the way that they talk. Here's how you find a marriage advocate. Look for this language. They'll say, I love you no matter what you decide. Like, I'm here to support you. They will sometimes remind you of your spouse's idea, but they will still hold space and validate your ideas too. And and they're usually very gentle in how they do it, but they'll gently say, hey, I've had a situation like this in the past. Here were some of our challenges. So they do, that's called commiserating, where they're not telling you what to do, but they are telling you how they personally worked through an issue in the past, but then they ultimately still deeply respect you in terms of what you do. So like, somebody who would not be an advocate is like somebody who gives advice and takes it personally if you don't follow their advice, right? It's like, I told you what to do. Why didn't you listen? That would not be a marriage advocate or even a friend advocate. Right. Just like skills for friendship, by the way. If you're that friend, work on it. Yeah. But like, because there are those friends. I don't know who's listening. But like marriage advocates or just friend advocates are people who can give ideas or thoughts, but ultimately love and respect you for the choices you make. And they're not going to let it change anything, because they know that marriages and relationships are complicated. Because they are, and everybody's gone through things.
Yeah, sure.
But really great question, actually.
Well, it's because I think a lot of times friends, they want to be so supportive of their friend. And so, but I think that can be a sticky thing, because you don't also want to turn the partner into the enemy when they're trying to.
Yeah.
And so that I think about that, and it's an interesting
like you said, kind of dichotomy or thing to how do we do all of the things?
Yes.
Show up in all the places.
Well, I had one client who I think had people for the different things. So like what you're talking about is actually loyalty. Like sometimes you want somebody to be loyal to you. And so it was interesting. I had a client who on his team had a loyal friend, the friend that was more of a marriage advocate, and one that liked his spouse better than him.
Well, that's good.
I felt like that was a great team.
Yes.
Because again, like he was like, sometimes he wasn't ready to hear the other side. Sometimes he just needed somebody who's like, I'm so sorry you're going through this. That is so hard. And how could they? Like sometimes you need to judge with somebody, and I think it's okay. But like you do have to, if you're going to have a team like that, like I thought it was a pretty smart way of approaching that, where it's like, okay, he does go to that person, but he also does go to the person who stays neutral, and he also goes to the other person that's like, did you think about how you say this and how you have come across this way, and you're kind of a dick sometimes, and like that's probably what happened. And he's like, oh, you're right. So like be thoughtful of your teammates too.
Yes, that's good. Yeah, no, I like that. So, like
that was fine. That was from a client, but he was smart. I like people who can do that though. You know.
Yeah. So it's knowing it's okay to have someone who's loyal to you and trying to find the balance on the other side too, so that you can get the full perspective. I like that. Yeah, good.
If you want to do it well,
Right. Exactly.
Otherwise, just do what you want to do.
Yeah. Do what you
I
want.
still have a deep value of autonomy.
Yeah. We won't be offended if you don't take our advice.
Like, do what you want to do. You're gonna anyways.
Yeah.
It's so funny because we're all therapists, right? And like people pay us to tell them what to do, and they never do it. It's like you pay us to do this job.
We're doing the research. We're doing it.
I spend so much time overthinking your problems.
I know. True.
Right?
Yes.
It's a therapist moment. Only therapists listening will understand that one.
Well, so another fun piece that we do is we have a question and we all answer it. Yes.
Okay, I like it.
Our
newly chewed. Thank you, Desi.
Thank you, Desi, for chewing on the whatever.
Oh, so I've got to pick it.
You
Yeah?
pick
Right,
it.
cool.
You read it.
Yeah,
we don't know what they are.
It's a deep. Oh, you didn't even know? Who did this for you?
We just blindly printed it out and cut. She did.
Oh, blindly. Well, how do you know if you cut it correct?
I don't.
Well,
I can cut and not read.
All right. The question is, how do you enjoy spending your alone time?
Okay. Yes, go for it.
You want me to do it first?
Yes.
I am learning to. This is a year of learning to actually value alone time. I'm such an extroverted person. A joke between me and my partner was when I was spending alone time, he's like, "Oh, who's going with you?" So I always spend alone time with a friend. But this year I have been really finding value in like, no, Angela, like you need some alone time. So one of the ways lately I have picked up for alone time is I am shooting hoops in my driveway.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I have a basketball. There's a hoop. And so I just go out and I just dribble the ball and I shoot and I keep practicing shooting. Because it's just like, it's soothing. It's just kind of like rhythmic and you're just there to kind of like, you know, get your brain off of things.
The sound.
Yeah, like, I don't know. And it's funny. It's a throwback to when I was a child. So when I was a child, I did not have a hoop. I just had the basketball. So I would spend a lot of time just dribbling, and I came up with like basketball dances where like I was like trying to get the ball as low as possible. And so like it was my goal to get down as close to the ground as possible and dribble and still dribble. And so I would get to where I was laying down and like, I don't know, I just wanted to do all kinds of weird stuff with the basketball. So like when I do it, there's also a nostalgia piece of like,
yes.
you remember this, but now I have a hoop, right? Yay. Yeah, no, and I would come up like a whoop, just go under my leg. It was just fun.
That is fun.
So that's what I like to do in my alone time.
Okay, I like it. You, Catherine?
Well, as I was listening to you, I feel like I need more alone time. I'm trying to think, what do I do that I really love that I do in my alone time? And I think I spend a lot of time researching and doing things on my business, which I enjoy doing some of that, but that doesn't count. You know,
it's work. You're working.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, exactly. It's not alone time. And
we got to put boundaries around our passions.
I do. Or there's chaos. So
I like to read. I mean,
She's not sure about
So
that.
maybe you're learning that you may need to grow in this area.
to grow in my alone time.
Don't worry, I just learned it too. It's kind of a thing.
I used to run, and
Okay.
I don't run anymore. I'm gonna grow. I'll come back to you when I figure out what it is that I'm
Good
doing.
question.
Okay, my turn. So,
Yes.
I've gotten back into listening to music alone. I'll go into my backyard and take my music phone and a speaker and
Music
just,
phone?
Yeah, everything's on my phone now. Music is part of it. And so I'll just listen to music and sit outside and sing along. And what's great with, the Apple now, you can get the words. And that's what I used to love doing as a kid, is pull out the albums, because I am that age, and they would have the words, or the cassette tapes. They used to have the words of all the songs. And so I just loved reading and singing along. And so that's what I do on my alone time.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah, I enjoy it. So,
Very good.
yeah. I hope all of you find something to do
Yes.
alone time.
And
Yes.
make sure you have alone time.
Right? Yeah.
First.
Yeah. And it's okay to be scared of it. I think the reason I avoided
Good job.
alone time was I was scared to be alone, which is so weird. But it came from old trauma. So, if you're scared to be alone, take it slow. Maybe a minute, 2 minutes.
Minute at a time.
Start
Just a little gentle tiptoe into alone time. That's fine.
Good reminder. I like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything to promote right now? Do you have
Yeah.
anything going on
Oh,
or coming
yeah.
up? Yeah.
Yeah, so my big promotion right now is YouTube. Look me up on YouTube. It's Angela Skurtu, and the spelling everybody always struggles with. So it's Skurtu. Look up Angela Skurtu. I'm always putting out new content. I am working on a book right now, but I don't have it titled yet because I keep workshopping and brainstorming it.
Cool.
But it will be about sex, so follow on the YouTube channel, and I'll start to promote it when it comes out.
Awesome. And you've got other books.
I
You
do. I have
mentioned-
2 books.
Yeah.
Helping Couples Overcome Infidelity, a therapist manual, but it's written for both therapists and clients. And Premarital Counseling, a guide for clinicians, which is also written for both clients and clinicians. So it's written in a way of teaching therapists how to do the job, but I always use human language because you're talking to people.
Right. Yeah.
So I even have clients who will read it and be like, "Oh, I learned cool things." Actually, hold on. Fun side note about the therapist, the infidelity book is in each chapter I have a good story and a bad story.
Oh.
And it was really fun because, one thing that was always I would get annoyed about therapist books is they only show you the good stories, when everything magically butterfly solves itself. And it's that's not real life. So in my chapters, I made sure you saw when I was struggling and it's ooh, this is a train wreck and I have no idea what to do. But here's how I made the most of that.
Yeah.
I love, that's my favorite feature of that book.
Very good. Ooh, now I'm curious now.
Yeah.
All right. So YouTube, Angela Skurtu,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be talking about the Joy Team, right? On
Yeah.
your
Oh, yeah.
YouTube?
There's a video coming up about that Joy Team.
Yeah.
Very good.
Your 3 pillars.
Yes. Yes. And then we have it might be past due, but we're doing some speaking engagements with Theramama and Radiance Resilience.
Mhm.
And we are making merch.
Oh, yeah. We're starting to
T-shirts
sell merch.
on
Yay.
Etsy. Look us up. It's coming together.
Yeah. Giggles and Glimmers on Etsy.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for coming.
This is great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Woohoo.
Woohoo!
48 minutes.
Awesome. Okay, now